My mother slid her phone across the table at dinner, right in front of my 9-year-old son. At that moment, I was 35 and Jaden's little hands, still ink-smudged from drawing thank you cards earlier, curled tighter in his lap. I watched the light drain from his face as my mother turned the screen to show her Pinterest board, white families in matching red sweaters, all smiles against a snowy backdrop. "We've decided on a theme this year," she said, gaze locked on the blonde children in her Pinterest app classic, traditional family portraits. "Just blood relatives who look like us." My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 35, a high school counselor at Lincoln Ridge High School, living just outside the city in the kind of neighborhood where the streets are always swept and every yard flies the same seasonal flag. My husband Marcus and I worked for years to give Jaden, a gentle, fiercely creative kid we adopted from foster care, the security nobody ever gave him before. Jaden had made a card that day, gluing tiny red sequins to the front, spelling out Mitchell Family Christmas. He handed it to my mother as soon as we arrived. She barely glanced at it. At the table that night, annual planning, 3 weeks before Christmas, the whole family there, my mother went on, not once looking at Jaden. "We want the Christmas card photos to look cohesive. You understand. Maybe 3 could come for dessert after the photo session." She said it like she was choosing between side dishes, not deciding who counted as family. My father, Richard, cleared his throat. "We just want traditional family pictures this year, just blood relatives who look like us." "He's lovely, Sarah, but he doesn't match the family aesthetic." My brother Tyler shrugged. "It's not personal. It's just aesthetic consistency." Jaden sat there, his whole world shrank to the size of a dinner plate, petrified and silent, 9 years old, hearing everything. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked, voice not much louder than a breath. "Should I wait in the car?" His thumb traced the corner of his card, the one my mother hadn't thanked him for. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just stood, every muscle vibrating, and said, "We're leaving. Now." I slid his coat over his shoulders, caught Marcus's eyes across the table. He was already on his feet. Marcus, who'd called out racism in boardrooms and family kitchens alike, looked directly at my parents. "Racist. The word you're looking for is racist." We left without another word. 5 hours home in silence. Jaden stared out the window, holding Mr. Peanuts, the stuffed elephant he'd clung to through every foster placement, every goodbye, against his chest. Something in me went cold. Not angry cold. Clear. Final. Less than a week later, my family was about to realize what happens when the person they underestimate the most decides, for once, not to come running back. Growing up, I learned early that love in our house came with ledgers. My mother, Carol, tracked every favor, every meal, every dollar she spent, emotional currency exchanged for compliance. As the older child, I was responsible, the one who colored inside the lines. Tyler, 3 years younger, got away with everything. At 14, he crashed Dad's Ford into a stop sign and blamed roadwork. My parents sent him to camp to rebuild his confidence. At 17, I forgot a permission slip and spent 3 weeks grounded. When grades came in, my A- was not Ivy League material. Tyler's C+? Boys mature late. My mother told me more than once, "You're not as fun as your brother." I told myself it didn't matter. It did. By the time I was 24, I put myself through college, juggling loans and part-time work, while Tyler floated from job to job, a string of missed shifts, write-ups, firings. My parents called it being patient while he found himself. I called it exactly what it was. By 30, I was working late nights, helping students at Lincoln Ridge High School feel safe enough to believe their stories mattered, even when their own families told them otherwise. I met Marcus at a nonprofit event. He was running IT support for a charity food drive, fixing a printer jam with one hand and making corny dad jokes with the other. He saw people, truly, deeply saw them. We got married on a balmy spring evening, surrounded by my few friends and the 3 family members who bothered to show. 2 of them were friends, not relatives. We tried to build the life we never had. The safe, steady one. Marcus took a job as a systems administrator at a healthcare company. I kept counseling at Lincoln Ridge, pouring myself into students who needed adults to show up. We bought a modest house on a quiet street with big trees and nosy retirees who left cookies on your porch whether you wanted them or not. We hoped, for a while, that some bridges could be rebuilt. But bridges only hold if both ends are anchored. Jaden came into our lives 4 years ago. He'd been in the system longer than he'd known a real bed, a blur of foster homes, a tattered folder of school records, a list of allergies and fears. The first night with us, he asked if he could keep his shoes on at bedtime, just in case. He asked permission for everything, a glass of water, an extra blanket, whether he could hug me goodnight or just wave. He made thank you cards for every teacher, every bus driver, every neighbor. Sometimes he still wakes up calling for foster parents whose faces he's halfway forgotten. My parents' reception to Jaden was, at best, strained politeness. He's quieter than I expected, Mother would say, as if waiting for a refund policy. My father's questions landed like quizzes. He's adopted, right? Did you ever think about having your own? I kept sending Christmas cards, kept inviting them for birthdays, kept sending grocery money when they lost jobs or needed a little help, just until we get back on our feet. I told myself it was the right thing to do. That family meant you gave, even when it hurt. But the asks multiplied. First, when Dad was laid off, a bridge loan. Just for 1 month. 1 month bled to 4, then 6. Then the mortgage payment needed covering, temporarily. The utilities. Tyler's car insurance. I'd Venmo $985 for the house, $240 for electric, $215 for insurance, $110 for their phone bill, $350 for health insurance, even groceries. For $100 here and there. Every month, like clockwork. Then came crisis texts. Tyler's car transmission blew, $3,200. Can you help? The roof needed repair, $8, $500. Dad's surgery, $6, $100. Tyler's legal bills, $4, $800. Property tax due, $2, $850. Tyler's security deposit, $1, $400. Always just emergencies, never repayments. Each time, I swallowed my pride and wrote the check, Zelled the money, mailed another grocery card. I documented every penny, just until Friday, every last time, promise. The total stacked higher, $2,300 a month, almost every month for 8 years. 96 months. $220,800 in monthly support. Add one-time loans, $26,850. Grand total? $247,650. That's what I paid so my family could keep pretending the world owed them more. Jaden grew. The boy who once slept in sneakers started smiling, trusting, drawing pictures of himself with Marcus and me, always as a family of 3. On the harder nights, he'd ask, I'm not getting sent back, right? It broke my heart every time. We tried to shield him. We never thought we'd have to shield him from my own parents. But life has a way of dropping the other shoe just when you think you can finally exhale. That night, after driving 5 hours home, after Jaden went to bed hugging Mr. Peanuts so tightly his stripes faded, Marcus and I sat at the kitchen table. I stared at the wall, letting anger and hurt swirl like storm clouds. All those years of payments, silence, forced smiles, what had it bought? A family that could look my child in the eye and announce he didn't match the aesthetic. Marcus squeezed my hand and whispered, You don't owe them anything. Sleep never came. Around midnight, I opened my laptop, the glow filling the kitchen like a lifeline. I pulled up my banking history, rang up the spreadsheet I'd kept for years, but never really scrutinized. Mortgage, $985. Utilities, $240. Car insurance, $215. Health, $350. Phone, $110. Groceries, $400. For almost 8 years. Line after line of Venmo requests, Zelle receipts, check images, just until we recover. I did the math for the first time, really did it. The number hit me like cold water. $247,650. They'd never even said thank you. By sunrise that next morning, the decision was made. Something inside me, whatever thread kept me bending, explaining, forgiving, had finally snapped clean in half. I slipped out of bed while Marcus and Jaden were still sleeping, their soft breaths the only peaceful sound in the house, and opened my laptop again. My hands shook as I logged into the bank's portal, each moving cursor a final, silent goodbye to the fiction I'd been living for years. Mortgage payment, active. $985 scheduled for the 3rd of every month. I hovered over edit, my finger trembling. Are you sure you want to cancel this payment? Flashed up. I clicked yes. Payment status, canceled. Utilities, $240 canceled. Car insurance, $215 canceled. Health insurance, $350 canceled. Phone bill, $110 canceled. Grocery allowance, $400 canceled. The silence after each click felt like oxygen, crisp and beautiful. I removed my parents and Tyler as authorized users on every account I'd ever shared. Changed every password, set fraud alerts, called the bank to flag any calls from my mother or brother about lost access. The representative asked, "Do you suspect your account is compromised?" I answered honestly, not anymore. When Marcus woke, he saw me in the kitchen, laptop open, eyes dry. "You okay?" he whispered, coming to rub my back. "I'm done," I whispered back. "We're done." There was a sense of something sacred in that finality. Just after breakfast, I called Jennifer Kowalski at Kowalski & Associates, our attorney, sharp as a tack and battle-tested in family disputes. I explained everything, voice steady. She listened, took notes, asked clear questions without an ounce of judgment. "You have every receipt?" she asked. I did, every Venmo, every Zelle, every screenshot of "pay you back by Friday." I sent over a PDF, 23 pages, line item breakdown, annotated with timelines, supporting texts, and flagged emails. Jennifer replied, "You're not alone in this." That afternoon, I crafted the email that changed everything. The subject line, "The real reason we won't be at Christmas." To 17 extended family members, my parents, brother, aunts, uncles, cousins. I was done being the scapegoat in Carol's stories. In a cold, factual tone, I wrote, "For the past 8 years, I have provided $247,650 in total financial support to my parents and brother. This has included covering everything from mortgage and utilities to medical emergencies, legal fees, even groceries. I did so quietly, believing family meant helping until they could stand on their own." 3 weeks before Christmas, in front of my 9-year-old son, my mother made it plain that Jaden, my child, does not belong in this family's public image. The phrase used was, "We want traditional family pictures this year, just blood relatives who look like us. He's lovely, but he doesn't match the family aesthetic." My father and brother echoed this sentiment. Effective immediately, all support is terminated. All automated payments have been canceled. Documentation is attached. For the first time in nearly a decade, every cent will remain with my immediate family, my husband, my son, and myself. Please do not contact us to debate, guilt, or negotiate these facts. Sarah. I attached the documentation. I hit send before my hands could change their mind. The cold morning sunlight spilling through the kitchen window felt sharper than ever. Marcus came in with Jaden while I scrolled for last-minute vacation deals, desperate to put some physical and emotional distance between us and the black hole of that dinner. Jaden's face was still shadowed by confusion, that endless worry that any moment he might be sent back. I said, "We're going somewhere special this Christmas, just us. Would you like to go to Disney World?" For the first time since that dinner, Jaden's entire face lit up, genuine smile, eyes bright, mouth dropping open. "Can I bring Mr. Peanuts?" he asked. "Absolutely," Marcus grinned. "And you pick what ride we go on first." They ran off to plan, Jaden already talking about Mickey Mouse and Space Mountain. I booked the trip, Christmas week, for nights at a Disney resort, a splurge, yes, but every cent was a monument to the line I'd just drawn. $3,800. Marcus booked a character breakfast specifically because Jaden loved Mickey. I didn't let guilt steal 1 ounce of that joy. Within hours of my email, the fallout began. Carol called 18 times before noon. Richard's emails crashed into my inbox with subject lines like emergency and family crisis. Tyler texted, "You're being cruel. After everything we've done together this." I blocked all of them, every contact, every social media avenue. Jaden sat beside me on the couch, hand in mine, watching holiday movies while the world outside shrieked for my attention. A few days later, the real consequences started to hit. Their December mortgage payment was returned, insufficient funds, plus a $75 late fee. The utility company sent a brown envelope labeled "Disconnect Notice." Health insurance lapsed on December 8th. Dad called the bank, only to be referred to their fraud department, who confirmed Sarah's authority on every account. The mask of helplessness they'd worn so long finally ripped. By the end of that first week, Tyler was served an eviction notice from his apartment. Turns out, I'd unknowingly covered his $650 share of rent for nearly 4 months. He moved back in with my parents, just as the power company cut service for 4 days that December right before Christmas. Neither Carol nor Richard could cover the $580 reconnection fee plus past due. Desperate, they called my old bank trying to dispute the payment cancellations. The bank didn't budge. The last bridge was burned, and they hadn't realized they were the ones holding the matches. Jaden, my beautiful, gentle son, never asked once about family Christmas photos. Instead, he started packing for Orlando days in advance, lining up his clothes, Mr. Peanuts perched at the top. On the night before we left, he slipped a thank you card under my pillow. On the front, in careful marker, it read, "Thank you for keeping me." Inside, he wrote, "I'm glad I didn't have to wait in the car." The next morning, as we boarded our flight, I told Marcus, "It feels like a new chapter." Marcus squeezed my hand. "We're finally free." We landed in Orlando under a sky so blue it felt like starting over. Jaden pressed his nose to the plane window, eyes wide. As we rolled our suitcases through the terminal, he looked up at me, hand in mine, and whispered, "Do you think Mickey will know my name?" Something inside me cracked and healed at once. "I promise, he'll know exactly who you are." We checked into our hotel, decorated for Christmas with lights and paper snowflakes everywhere, and for the first time in weeks, Jaden giggled so hard he almost tipped over his suitcase. The days ahead blurred with laughter and adventure. Marcus was determined to give Jaden everything he'd missed in those lonely foster years, a whirlwind of parades, space mountain rides, and sticky-fingered breakfasts with Mickey. Jaden brought Mr. Peanuts to every meal, barely let go of him except for the split second it took to hug Goofy for a picture. Christmas morning, we watched the sunrise over the park, warm cinnamon rolls and cocoa in hand. Jaden hugged me and said, "This is the best Christmas I ever had." I believed him. Back home, the world spun differently for my family. Within the first week, mortgage payments failed, late fees snowballed, and the utility company cut their service. Tyler, recently evicted, moved home, 3 grown adults sharing the small misery of an unheated house, wrapping themselves in bitterness and winter coats. Mom called relatives to plead, but Aunt Linda, once banished for calling out their small-mindedness, posted screenshots of my mother's group text on Facebook, the one about Jaden not matching the family aesthetic. The post was deleted, but not before it circled through the neighborhood Facebook page and every church group Carol ever gossiped with. Richard sent desperate emails. "Emergency. House at risk. Urgent. Health insurance lapsed. We need you." For the first time in my life, I blocked both of my parents' numbers, letting the noise fade into blessed silence. Marcus handled the rest. Password resets, contact list purges, security settings tightened until nothing could get through but peace. By late January, a foreclosure notice arrived at my parents' doorstep. They'd been behind even when I faithfully paid the bills, draining my monthly support to chase their own definition of enough. The photo-perfect family image crumbled, replaced by raw fear and resentment. By February, the house was listed in a hasty fire sale. They lost $40,000 more than it was worth on a quick close, walking away with $2,300 and a mountain of regret. The day their car was repossessed from the Walmart parking lot, I was helping Jaden rehearse his lines for the school play. He asked, "Do you think Grandma and Grandpa miss us?" I paused, not wanting to feed his worry. Maybe, but that doesn't mean we have to miss how they treated us. Jaden seemed to think this over, then nodded solemnly. I like it better here. By spring, my parents moved into an apartment near the highway, 14 stories with thin walls and a mailbox that jammed every other week. Richard stocked paint cans 20 hours a week at Home Depot for $14.50 an hour. Carol got part-time hours folding t-shirts at Target, telling herself she was too experienced to be managed by kids half her age. Tyler, now 32, worked at GameStop and slept on his parents' couch, still waiting for life to hand him a prize he'd never earned. Meanwhile, the world turned brighter for us. Marcus and I bought a new house, 4 bedrooms, a backyard with room for Jaden to run wild, close enough to his school that we walk him each morning. Down payment, $38,500, money saved directly from the 8 months since I stopped sinking my income into a black hole. Jaden picked his room color, deep blue with glow-in-the-dark stars, arranged meticulously by Marcus after their 3rd trip to Home Depot in a week. The sound of Jaden and his friends laughing in that house was a drumbeat reminding me of everything worth fighting for. Jaden made honor roll that semester. He played Tiny Tim in the school's production of A Christmas Carol, his idea, his dream, his decision. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he practiced karate until he earned his yellow belt. Sometimes I'd pause outside his door in the evening, listening to him plan sleepovers with his 3 best friends. Each time he giggled, my heart repaired itself a little more. Social fallout ricocheted through the family. My cousins, who once believed my mother's stories about my selfishness, quietly reached out to apologize. Aunt Linda kept her distance, but sent holiday cards, each one addressed to all 3 of us, including Jaden, every single time. Carol tried to regain control, posting on Facebook about ungrateful children who abandon family over one disagreement. That lasted less than a day. Aunt Linda's screenshots kept circulating, and sympathy for my parents dried up faster than spilled milk on a hot sidewalk. The family Christmas card tradition abruptly ended. Nobody wanted to align with people who could exile a 9-year-old child for not matching the aesthetic. As spring turned into summer, peace at home was no longer an aspiration but a reality. I watched Jaden fall asleep, arms wrapped around Mr. Peanuts, safe at last in a world where belonging wasn't conditional on blood or looks. It's been almost 11 months since that awful dinner, the night my mother announced to a table full of relatives that my son didn't match the aesthetic of her perfect world. Sometimes I wake up in the quiet hours before dawn, replaying Jaden's words. Did I do something wrong? Should I wait in the car? There's an ache in remembering, but it's not regret. Not anymore. Life, by now, is finally ours. Marcus and I strolled every street of our new neighborhood before deciding. We landed on a 4-bedroom house with a fenced yard and a big maple that drops helicopter seeds for Jaden to chase every spring. Our down payment was $38,500, savings that piled up shockingly fast once we stopped supporting 3 extra adults. Sometimes I joke that every blade of grass under Jaden's feet was paid for with our last Christmas. He laughs, says we should call our home Second Chance House. Jaden is thriving. Not just surviving, thriving. He made the honor roll last semester, persuaded his teacher to let him play Tiny Tim because he likes to help people feel noticed. He practices his British accent while brushing his teeth, dreams of being the first to memorize his lines, invites 3 best friends for sleepovers whenever the moon is full. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he bows at karate class and hustles home to tell us about new games he made up with the other kids. Sometimes, he still asks if he's allowed to have a snack or bring a friend home, but belief grows stronger each day. He knows he belongs here. Marcus watches him, pride stitched into every gesture. Last month, during our anniversary dinner, Marcus proposed again, this time with Jaden in on the secret. I found out later that Marcus had asked Jaden's blessing weeks before, handed him the ring box and whispered, "Don't tell Mama." Jaden sat on the edge of his seat that whole dinner, practically wiggling out the answer. When Marcus got down on one knee, Jaden grinned and yelled, "Say yes, Mom." I did. Of course I did. Not because I needed another ring, but because we both wanted Jaden to know he could never be left out of anything that mattered. My parents, meanwhile, still live in their apartment by the highway. Richard works 20-hour weeks at Home Depot, stacking shelves, moving quietly among people who only know a piece of his story. Carol is at Target, stocking end caps and folding t-shirts, shoulders a little rounder than before. Tyler, 32 years old, claims the couch as his own after closing at GameStop for $12.75 an hour. Aunt Linda told me dryly that yes, they reached out to her once, asking for money. She simply said no. 2 months ago, Carol sent an email. For paragraphs of winding words. She wrote that they missed us, that they wanted to meet Jaden properly this time, that maybe they could have handled things better. She wrote about missing holidays, about how everyone overreacted. She didn't mention the $247,650. She didn't mention racism. She didn't mention a single real apology, just asked if we could move past it. I read it twice and set it aside. I haven't responded. Maybe someday I will. Maybe not. Sometimes late at night, after Jaden is asleep and Marcus is reading in bed, I wonder if I went too far. If maybe, just maybe, I should have given them one more chance. Then I remember Jaden's face at that table, 9 years old, asking if he needed to wait in the car. I remember how he flinched at the idea that love could vanish on a whim. People tell me constantly to forgive. Family is everything. Don't hold grudges. Be the bigger person. But Jaden is my family. Marcus is my family. Aunt Linda, who chose truth over being popular, is family. The lesson I learned is sharp-edged and hard one. Enabling cruelty in the name of keeping the peace doesn't heal a single wound. It only assures the cruel that their behavior works. Some people believe family means unconditional forgiveness. I used to believe that too. Now I know love without respect isn't love, it's exploitation. The best thing I ever did was draw a line so clear that even my parents couldn't miss it. I deleted their numbers, canceled the payments, and taught my son that he is worth fighting for, every single time. As I tuck Jaden into bed tonight, his walls still glowing with the stars he picked, Mr. Peanuts wrapped in his arms, I feel something I haven't known since I was a child: safety. He is home, safe and loved, and I am free. People say you'll regret cutting off family. That hasn't happened. Not once. Because I finally understand, some people will take and take until there's nothing left. And the only way to survive is to stop giving. We never needed the people who didn't want us there. We never did. Was I wrong for cutting them off completely? Did I go too far or not far enough? Have you ever had to choose yourself over family? Drop your story in the comments below. If this hit close to home, hit that like button and subscribe. More stories coming every day. Because sometimes, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival.